Oh, you don't have headphones on.
This
But
is just.
I'm just winging it. All right, everybody, back for Sports Card Culture podcast number 5.
Repping number
5?
5, yes.
Well, we got a special guest today. I'm going to have Clint introduce him, and we're going to be talking about some graded.
Yeah, so we got the OG of sports cards here, Jeremy Nelson, buddy that is a grader, dealer, hoarder of sports cards, and runs a grading group and has a lot of insight on, obviously, the popularity of grading these days. So we kind of want to pick his brain because he's been doing cards longer than most in the Twin Cities. We've done a bunch of deals. Good guy. He could talk a little bit about what he does, but we want to just ask him some questions about cards. So here we go. John.
All right, my first thing is just how does your grading submission work? How did you get started?
Yeah.
Like how did you get started
grading?
So why or how did I start grading? So it's kind of an interesting subject because I'm big in the national. I should say I think I'm bigger in the national card show group. I kind of like going to all the big shows. I set up in the nationals, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I started trying to do larger volume cards, and I decided I was sending a lot to PSA, and then BGS got real hot for a while.
What year would have been your first submission?
My first submission to PSA was probably 1997, so nothing real early.
Wow. That's still early.
But
do you know what year they started?
No.
Neither
I
do
should know, but it's probably like 93, something right in there.
That's what I've heard too.
But anyway, so didn't do much until about 2002, 2003. Started sending more cards in. I suppose it was probably about 2007. Kind of started switching to BGS a little bit.
Do you remember how much
that because
cards
of the
cost?
Autograph Bowman Chrome?
Yeah, you got the autograde on it and stuff like that if you did those. But
how much did cards cost back then to grade?
how much did cards? So PSA, wasn't submitting with them in large volume then, but you could get, they were like $4 or $5 a card you could do PSA for.
Wow. At bulk rate.
At bulk rate,
Okay.
yep. BGS at that time, so we had a sweetheart of a deal. So 9.5 nothing. So if it wasn't a 9.5, you paid less to not get it slabbed.
Okay.
They still looked at the card. They weren't just collecting cash, but it was actually a sweetheart of a deal. So it was
nice.
9.5 or nothing. So it was what was it? $7 if you got a 9.5 and $1 if you didn't.
$1 if you
Yeah.
didn't.
$1 if you didn't.
How many people would take you up on that now?
Yeah, right. I think everybody'd love to do that now.
How many people were sending? Were you just doing
Well, so
them for
then
your
it-
own?
So then it was just us as dealers. We were sending our own cards, and then we kind of seen a few years back. It was about 3 years back. We kind of started to see the writing on the walls with BGS a little bit. Their service time started not getting good. They were raising their prices instead of hiring more employees, which was
Red flag.
Yeah, it was a red flag for me. So I decided, me and Wyatt Tracy, he was living at my house. I was building a new house. He was living at my house, helping me build the house, and we decided to try and recruit PSA. So initially, I was thinking, one, I'd get better pricing, so I did it.
Yep.
Two, I heard all the rumors about people getting better grades because they send in way more cards.
I've heard that rumors.
Totally false, by the way. They don't care.
No. The
Well,
cards
they might have.
stand alone.
Once upon a time, it might have worked, but in today's society, it's just not going to happen.
So let's make this clear. Your opinion as a major bulk submitter to PSA, you don't believe that you get any better grades than somebody sending in 20 cards.
I guarantee I don't. If you've seen my submissions that come back, trust me, some of them I'm like, how could this be an 8?
Yeah.
I mean, this thing's a gorgeous card. Trust me. It's just they look at so many cards every single day, all day long. They don't have time to look at whose order it is. They just don't care. It's just numbers.
And let me say this, to the myths. I think there's quite a few myths regarding PSA. When I first got into it, a lot of people were worried about two things. It was interesting how many people were worried about them not getting their actual cards back from PSA. And I've confronted this with a ton of our customers where I'm like, think about this for a second. This is a publicly traded company that's making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Are they going to jeopardize their entire business to swap out your $4,000 card if it's a big one, or your $400 card, and then somehow then go through the labor of selling it when literally they could grade more cards during that time and make more money? And there was this huge fear where people are like, I don't trust them. I'm never going to send them to them.
Well, I mean, that might have been extrapolated to how do I know they're not giving my good card to the big dealer and then
swapping it out
and sending it to me.
And the other thing I've heard is related to that is that I don't think I'm going to get good grades. And now the reality is cards, I believe, sent to PSA stand on their own. Because I've sent a lot of small batches early on where the cards I had were bad. and I missed issues with them, and they got bad grades. And then there was cards that I was literally sending 100 on my second order, and the card itself, if I would have looked it over closer, it was a good card and it got a 10. And so
so you're arguing
I've
you were
seen
getting
consistency
bad grades because you didn't have the experience to identify.
And I think that's where some people that are new to grading think, oh, I didn't. They get a bad order back and they blame it on I didn't send enough. And you have people who complain to you about their grades, and it happens there all the time.
All the time. So one thing I say, so anytime you do anything, you got to pay to learn, right? So I call it like a college tuition. So your first X amount of orders, you pay to go to college. And once you learn your job, once you learn everything, so that's when your income level goes up, right?
Yep.
All of a sudden you start doing a lot better. And on top of that, every different product line and item, whether it's a prism or optic, has its own natural flaws. And you got to learn those flaws and find out why they're hitting those. I mean,
you rarely see a print line on 87 Topps cards.
Yeah, I mean, even I don't know that. You know, I look at a lot of cards, and I'd like to say I can run a 75% clip. If I think it's a 10, it's going to be a 10. But I miss stuff like that on new product lines. I don't know that stuff's there. You know, you look at it, you think it's perfect, but I haven't looked at 50 or 100 of the same card and found out that there's this flaw on this card all the time.
And let me ask you this. How much does it help you in your grading when you get to – so you do a reveal video for all your customers when they come back. You get to see 1,000 of one card graded over a year. I bet that brings insight to you about how they grade a card.
Yeah, I think it brings a lot of insight, you know, into that product line, but, you know, into the individual card. So I'm going to equate it to like PSA, thinking you're going to switch out a card too. Unfortunately, I get so many cards back that I don't have time to look over cards as much as I'd like. You know, I wish I had the time. You know, it was nice when I was only doing 1,000 or 2,000 cards a month because I could look them over really good. The one thing I do have the advantage of is I see what everybody's sending, so I know pop reports, different stuff like that. What's going to be heavy, what's not. You know, what's the hot product to get on top of right now at early release, different things like that.
John, how many cards are you guys right now? Actually, back it up. 3 years ago when you started taking group submissions, how many were you taking on a monthly basis compared to now? And how have you kind of seen the trend in grading spike? Or talk about that.
Well, so my business might be a little bit different than most. And the reason I say that, so when I first started, so group submissions wasn't allowed. So
how did they know?
Well, they didn't know, but it, you know, technically wasn't allowed. So everything had to technically be yours. Is how they looked at it.
Were they trying to grind out accounts at that point?
No, they weren't grinding out accounts or anything like that. But you know, you weren't allowed to. They didn't look at anybody as a submission group. They wouldn't look at it that way because if you're collecting somebody else's cards and something happens, and the customers are going to think PSA did it, not you, right? So it looks bad on PSA. So submission groups weren't allowed. So I actually didn't go out to the public to get cards. I actually went out to other large show dealers and card shops, and I recruited them. So, you know, coming in on, let's say, you know, middle to end of year one, I was sending 1,000 to 2,000 cards a month. Actually, you know, coming in 6 months, I was sending 1,000 to 2,000 cards a month. And end of year one, I was 3,000-ish cards a month. And that was pretty steady up until, you know, I would say maybe 7 months ago, and then I was up to about the 4,000 card rate. I'm up a lot more than that now, but a lot of the other big submitters, they're a lot higher. So I wasn't big on social media. You know, my Facebook group started a year ago. Yeah. You know, I didn't even have a Facebook. I mean, I thought MySpace was cool once upon a time.
Well, you referred to it as a Facebook, so I believe you.
I call it the interweb, right?
Nice.
So I didn't have this social media presence that when all of a sudden people were having submission groups and it was allowed to go on and say, my 900 card friends send with me. Yeah. So I didn't do that. So I'm sending 10,000 cards a month, old school way with shop owners and stuff like that. So a lot of these new guys, it scares me a little bit of the amount of submission groups that are up right now is that I'm going to say aren't really validated. A lot of these guys, you know, haven't been deep in the industry for a long time. Maybe they've been on, you know, Blowout or something like that for a while, but have they been doing serious business with a lot of customers? A lot of guys are sending a ton of stuff to them.
Do you think there might be a lot of group submitters, individuals who are new to the hobby and just say, hey, this is a good path to go down, and then fill up my Facebook group and let's go?
Exactly. I mean, they jumped in when it was right at the hot time. You know, a couple people might have vouched for them, so PSA approved their account for submission centers, but it scares me a little bit. I mean, you guys really got to think about who you send your cards to and why.
Yeah,
I mean, how long have these guys really been around? you know.
Yeah, and who can vouch for the fact that they've done their job well and they're trustworthy?
Well, I mean, again, you're talking about, so I'm sending 10,000 cards a month. So let's say that's $100,000 in overhead costs for me a month, kind of minimum, let's say, right? There's not a lot of guys that if something goes wrong, where are your cards going to go? If they decide to have a mental breakdown and crash, and you know, your cards are going to be out for 6 months, right? So where are they going to be 6 months for you to be able to get your cards? It's a scary thing.
Well,
to
I mean,
think about.
at your volume, you're talking. Let's say you're not charging anything over the fee,
right?
And we'll make it super simple. Let's say they're still at $10 a card.
Yeah, $10 a card, just as
you're talking 100,000 takes 9 months to get it back. Let's say, well, you can go with 6 months collecting fees and just disappear.
Right. I mean, that's one nice thing about one nice thing about my service. So a lot of guys do charge ahead of time, and it's a safety thing for them too. And I get it. But again, that's where know where you're sending your cards. I actually don't charge until the cards are back from PSA. So you give me 100 cards, 1,000 cards, 10 cards, 2 cards. I don't.
Is that
care.
because PSA is not charging you until?
Well, and again, I was designed to send for card shops and flippers, right? So I don't make my customers fill out, itemize every single card that they give to me, because a card shop, to send 500 or 1,000 cards a month, they don't have time to enter all of that. They want to just put it in a bundle, look at it, send it to Jeremy because I'm trusted, and they got a bulk waiver with me.
And so when you're submitting, you have the sheet that you get from PSA, and then you're just marking where these guys
So
who owns this section of cards.
I have a paperwork designed just to make ownership for those areas.
And you got to enter it in anyway, so it's not like you're doubling up on work.
Well, it is a lot faster. If I had an Excel spreadsheet from people, it'd be way faster. Don't get me wrong.
Fair enough.
But at the end of the day, I did that again, designed for who my clientele was. Now I'm starting to get a lot of other customers. I'll have a website up and running shortly.
Awesome.
And people who are sending, let's say, 50 or less cards, I am going to start making people who do 50 and less cards put it on the website just to speed things up. But the big senders, the card shops, they can still take advantage of my bulk sending so they don't have to do the work. I mean, that's a huge advantage for a lot of people.
Let me ask you a couple questions. Have you ever had anybody not pay you and you got stuck with cards? Talk a little bit about the dynamic of like how you and then for those of you guys listening too, we'll put a link to Jeremy's group so you guys can contact him if you guys want to submit cards through him. We'll get you all those details. So if you're listening, you're going, oh man, this sounds good, and you either live in Minneapolis now. Do they have to be local to grade through you? How does that all work?
No, I definitely don't have to be local to grade through me. I mean, there's a ton of people. Again, nationally is where everybody comes. I have people that live in California next to PSA ship to me, and I do all the work and ship it back to California. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I got a New Jersey guy. There's a store, there's a PSA right in New Jersey. Well, I'm going to give you a little piece of information. When they hand it to the shop in PSA in New Jersey, then they have to wrap it up, ship it to California, and it goes through the whole system again. So don't think your cards are getting in faster, guys. I mean, that's just reality. There's no way to cheat the system. Right. I mean, the system is what it is. But as far as somebody not paying, really I've never had a problem, but essentially I started as a trusted group of people as well. Right. I do have a lost and found section where somebody I told them their cards were done and they said they weren't their cards. My paperwork clearly said it. I put a post in the group, are these anybody's? Nobody's claimed them yet. So anyway, I got a nice Tyler Hero PSA 10 Prism and some other Prism color silver refractors, different things like that.
Now, is it because you're dealing with larger dealers, you're not going to have that thing where some guy you don't know is like, oh yeah, that's my card.
Well, 100%. So I mean,
guys aren't going to be.
Well, yeah. Right. I mean, I know who's on the orders. I mean, because the same people send all the time, correct. Right? When I move into my new location, I am going to start getting video equipment, so I'll be able to record every order that comes in. That's going to be part of the process that I'm going to have coming up soon.
Really, really smart. Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, the thing is it takes 6 months, guys. So you're going to forget some of your cards that you sent in. I always recommend everybody take overview photos of what they send in, so there's no questions. But to this point, I've only accidentally sent one person the wrong card. Nice. And I don't think that's that bad. I mean, really.
Wait. What was the card?
So it was a 1964 mantle, and the other guy that was on the order, it was a 3, guys. So don't overthink it.
I was gonna say
It wasn't a 10.
I had the 10 Jordan.
It was a vintage order, and I gotta say I can't let myself get rushed because somebody else came over and they're like, I need my cards. I'm going out of town. I need them. So I'm grabbing the cards, and that card was on the bottom of that order, and it ended up going with them.
I've done that in Cabin.
Yeah, and then so they were going out of town on a card show, and they sold that one. But you know what? It was a 3. I let the person decide to find a different 3 on eBay that they wanted, and I bought it for them. So
that's very good.
it was fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, we've been sending cards through Jeremy, Mike, and I at Absolute for a few years, at least probably a year and a half when Wyatt was still living with you guys. And I've really appreciated the work because oftentimes we'll submit some of our own, but there's times where it's like, we got so many other things going on. There's so many irons in the fire. And obviously, I think when Jeremy's sending them, there's the benefit of possibly PSA processing some of that stuff faster, just the streamlinedness of it. I mean, his prices are amazing. They're, cheaper than if you were to drop it off and grade it through us for people to go through him direct. So, I mean, obviously they got guys working for him. And, yeah, I mean, grading right now, one of the benefits with the costs of boxes going up, if you guys aren't grading your cards, like there's sometimes no way to recoup your money when you're ripping boxes without
especially
grading.
when you take a hit. Yeah.
Yep, especially when you take a hit. And so to really leave that money on the table, like, I mean, I know we've talked on the last couple podcasts numerous times about both PSA stock prices, the amount of people talking about grading. It's something that I would highly recommend. John, you sent your first order to PSA?
Yeah, so I had, we talked about this before, but I had sent my first graded order in 1998 to SGC, and I sent in my second graded order of 100 to PSA in June. So I went 20 years. I was never a grader.
20-year hiatus in the grading world.
Packed, and what I got, that was my cards, and I liked them, and I needed them to be graded. And so basically opening the shop, I didn't have a choice. You just have to do it.
Yeah, I love it.
I like it. It's fun. I used to think the 4-week wait was the longest wait on the planet. And now I'm like, man, 4 more months.
I want to throw another topic for Jeremy to answer is like, I know Jeremy's a collector at heart too. Jeremy, talk a little bit about what you collect in cards, why you collect it, just that whole thing.
Oh, so I'm weird. So I'm honestly like a straight up hoarder, but
love it.
So today I bought a cognac trout update.
Nice.
Oh my Lord!
It was actually kind of pretty card. Pretty card.
As some people would say sexy card.
Yeah, sexy card. So yesterday I bought a 1989 Upper Deck factory sealed case. It's $20 case. So that was pretty.
Where'd you get
slick.
that from?
I was Clint here next door here was
sometimes you gotta throw your boy
was
a
nice
bone.
enough. Yeah,
you gotta throw your boy a bone.
I talked him into treating me right. But no, so my main collection is 90s inserts. So most people say 80s and 90s are garbage cards, right? So that's my glory.
Hard
hole,
disagree.
right?
Glory hole.
That's my glory land, right? So
what year would you say is where the inserts started getting good and kind of like
started getting good?
So
I'm curious what you say. I
he's
got my
open
own opinion.
and seen more inserts and knows more about inserts.
Yeah,
than
so you know the first good inserts technically are 1993 with Ultra basketball.
Or like even like Flair football, you got one insert per pack.
Yeah. Well, I don't really.
I don't know if there's great
I'm
ones.
gonna poo-poo like the '92, Fleer packs, the rack packs where you could search for the phenoms and the different things like that. But 1993 was the first basketball good inserts coming in Ultra with the
scoring kings,
with the scoring kings and stuff like
Beam
that.
team.
And then in 1994 and 1994 was like an ugly version of like artist proofs and press proofs and stuff like that. They really started to revolutionize that type of thing in 95 and 96. 96 arguably would be my number one choice for when the inserts got the best.
Would you argue that 96 Pinnacle has some of the best inserts ever made?
Oh, yeah, I mean, just Pinnacle, just 96, 97. I mean all of them.
He's actually putting together all those sets. Anytime I get those,
So, artist proof sets, refractor sets,
Starburst.
Flatrical Matrix, Starbursts. I mean, every single one of those, every set, every sport, I'm putting the set together. If it was a 200 to 500 card set and you got one of them per box, that's my jam right there.
Nice.
That's what I like. So straight hoard it though. I don't have lists yet. When I get some extra time, I'm going to make lists
You're putting together all the early refractor sets, though, like finest, right?
Yep,
Do you have the early baseball 93 finest set?
I've got the finest set, not the refractor set. It's not
refractor
finished
set,
yet.
yeah.
No. I mean, like everybody, when things got stupid, just really went up in price. 5-6 years ago, I sold off a lot of the big pieces of my collection.
I remember at one point you posted a picture, though, of 93 finest basketball refractors. Just a huge, you just found or something.
I probably have 2,000 to 3,000 93 finest basketball refractors.
Nice.
So like I said, when I hoard, I straight.
There's some set builders who are going to be contacting you after this.
And I'm fine with that, dude. Let's trade. I might have to actually put a list together. Let's,
yeah, exactly. When you have a break from grading 10,000 cards a month, then you can actually work on collecting your own or trading.
But yeah, no, that's my thing. So limited exposures from 1997 Leaf. That just a great Leaf Limited, just a great product. There's so many good.
What's funny is I didn't think I was ever gonna. And it's funny we talked a little before the podcast. So I'm really meeting Jeremy for the first time, but we're basically the same age. We grew up in the same area. And what's funny is I have told many of my customers, they're like, "Oh, I got this auto, I got this relic." I'm like, I don't really care about autos and relics. I just like artwork and inserts. And I don't find it surprising that we're the same age and we find the insert to be superior over the auto and the relic.
Yeah, and I've actually said that numerous times. When I opened packs in the 90s, I never pulled an autograph out of an entire pack because they were impossible. Like 91 Upper Deck Baseball had them, but it was 1 per 100 cases. I mean, I don't know how rare the Ted Williams and some of those autos were, but
100 cases might be low.
It might actually be more than that. I mean, talk a little bit too. I know, Jeremy, you've had some PMGs. Obviously, that huge sale of that green Jordan really brought, I think, an awareness nationally to the value of some of these inserts. Like, what kind of cool cards have you opened yourself? I know back in the 90s you even ripped some of that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely ripped a lot of that stuff back then. I mean, that stuff, when 1996 Flair came out. I mean, so true story. So me and Mexican, I know you guys don't know him, and it might sound bad, but my best friend growing up is called Mexican John. And John Schiller. And so we used to pack war. If you guys don't know what pack warring is, so the new way to pack war is nothing like the old way. Nowadays you guys each buy a pack, and whoever has the best card or the highest stat wins. Well, we didn't do it that way back then. Back then it was straight murder. So you'd get 2, 3, 4 guys. Everybody grabs a pack. The guy with the best card had to buy it all, and the guy with the best card won it all.
Whoa!
So the low guy bought it, and the high guy won it.
Yeah, high guy won, low guy bought, and it was just murder. I mean, at the card shop we would go through so much product, and that was, I think, why we were the busiest shop in the Twin Cities. I think is because there was just murder happening every day.
What was the name of the shop?
Sports Card Emporium in Golden Valley.
Yep.
So we went through wax like it was unbelievable. Dave Graves and Shannon, I can't remember his last name, owned the shop.
Did you ever open a PMG, Precious Metal Gem?
I did open a PMG. It was just a loser red one that I remember.
Okay.
Back then it didn't matter. Yeah. It wasn't that sweet of a card, and the reason it wasn't that sweet of a card is because you'd hardly ever seen them, right?
Right.
So, I mean, the other things that were the other inserts were the ones we were really looking for. But the first box of 1996 Flair that me and Mexican opened, so on the outside of the box it says, "Look for rare row zeros." So we're opening the pack, right? And he had a Sean. What was the white guy? Sean
Bradley.
Sean, yeah,
big tall dude.
Big tall. So he had a Sean Bradley row 0, right? And he's like, "I got you this time." And Flair were expensive packs. They were $5.99 when that stuff came out.
Wow, yeah,
so for back then, that was expensive, right? Maybe it was $6.99. I can't remember, but so I open it up and I get a Kobe, but mine's a row 1 or 2. I can't remember. But so it's Kobe's rookie, but nobody really knew if he was going to be great then because Steph Marbury was the man. He was the god. Yeah, and we're obviously from Minnesota, so Kobe he's like, "Oh, you got Kobe. I got a row 0, Sean Bradley." Well, my Kobe Bryant was actually the legacy, but we didn't know what it was. Whoa. And not only was mine the legacy, mine was actually jersey numbered. So it was jersey numbered legacy, Kobe Bryant rookie. Now the downside of it is it was factory pinched in the pack. Remember back then so the bottom of the card was factory pinched across.
You gotta be kidding me.
100%.
On the Kobe.
On the Kobe.
Masterpiece.
Not masterpiece, legacy.
Not the 101, but the 100.
I'm sorry, legacy.
Legacy, but it was jersey numbered, yeah. And so Mexican's like,
yeah,
yeah, Mexican's like, no, dude, I got a row 0. It says right here on the box, row 0s are where it's at. And I'm like, man, I don't care what you got. This one's numbered. And back then, getting a card numbered to 100 was ridiculous.
Was it 100 and not 150?
150 on that
I
one.
gotta look that card up. That's
So,
unreal.
so we're like, well, we're thinking about sending it back into to Fleer.
Who won the car? Who won the?
Well, he kept his Bradley because I couldn't prove that.
So you guys did a what do you call it in poker? A chop or?
I told him he had to pay for the packs, but he could keep his Bradley. Is what I said.
Oh, so
for those of you guys listening, just an idea on the value of that card. There's only one of them listed on eBay. We'll see if we can find any sold. But somebody has a PSA 8 listed for $150,000 on that card.
And add jersey number to it.
And at jersey number, I don't know. I mean,
now you got a PSA 1,
right? Well, back then that would have still been a 5 or a 6.
An 8.5 sold for $15,000.
Yeah.
So what happened with the Kobe?
So we're talking about sending it in. I was talking about sending it in. And then all of a sudden, a week later, we found out how good legacies were, right? So the news came out. And
Yeah, row 0 wasn't.
Yeah, I told him I wanted my Sean Bradley since I won. I never did get that. but anyway, so we're sitting here sending it in. A different guy came in, Chuck. He was a big buyer back then. He would rip a lot of product, and he actually talked me out of it right then and there because I had it with me, and he gave me $600 for it. But we were addicts, right? We ripped just every day, all day long. So we worked there, and we didn't get paychecks because we ripped so much wax.
Fair enough.
We just ripped.
I
for cards.
Senior year, I actually worked for Hobby Heroes in Coon Rapids.
Sure.
On University Extension and Northtown Mall.
Yeah, that was too far for us to drive. We went downtown Ridgedale.
I actually stole. So in my shop right now, my three cases, those are all dealers in there. I stole that concept from Hobby Heroes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So back then, was Schindler's open? Or
Yeah.
What were so?
Schindler's have been around since the 20s, 30s.
Yeah, well, it was a newsstand. So Schindler's was still the big.
That was
boy
the big
in game.
card, yeah.
But that's just because they had 10 shops.
Yeah.
Right. Any one shop wasn't better than any other shop in town, to be honest.
And was this still? Were you guys still experiencing like the '80s, late '80s boom, or had it like already busted? I mean, what did you see as far as interest in cards?
Late 90s wasn't a bust.
No, late 80s. So late 80s, nobody gave a crap about late 80s cards. I mean,
no, but I mean the boom of people being interested in cards.
Oh no, that was
declined.
And then it declined, and then it was kind of just a.
That declined back in like 92, 91.
Right, but late 90s there was a definite resurgence.
Oh, 100%. Well, the inserts I think is what brought it back.
Yeah.
I mean, to be quite honest, cards got cool again. All the artwork on it.
They really worked hard to actually like create something new versus
the type of printing. I mean, Dufex. I don't know if you guys know, but Dufex, to do Dufex printing that was on like the museum collections and stuff, that's like a 2-week process.
Wow. I didn't know that.
To do that, yeah, it's like a 5-stage 2-week process to do that print.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That's amazing. They actually put some money into it versus just printing 88 tops that cost them nothing.
After it sunk, they had to come up with some new ideas to make it exciting.
So talk a little bit too, Jeremy, about you've kind of lived through a few stages of the sports car market. What do you see happening today that's unique? Just talk a little bit about like even the last couple of years and just the hobby.
Cards are funny today. I'm not even really sure what to think. I mean, cards changed so fast in the past 6 months with COVID, right? I really don't even know what to think about it. I'm curious to find out how many of you new guys are going to stick around. Is this a phase because you're trying to get away from your wife while you're in the house? Is this, is this actually something that you're starting to find fun again? I mean, what's going to be your collection would be my question. Right. Are you in it because you're trying to make $50 on some, retail product you found? Yeah. I mean, if so, that's cool. I mean, everybody's got their thing, right? It's what makes them excited for the day. Yeah,
one of the things that's unique is I think now I don't know if this is true in the 80s and 90s, but I don't know with the internet, with Facebook, with eBay, you have the entrepreneurs getting into cards as an investment in a unique way, but you also still have all the collectors who have been in it forever, and then you have like a kind of a merge of both. Like I would consider myself both. I was a collector, so I collect Paul Molitor PSA 10s, and then I've started collecting. My new recent collection is PSA 8 and 86 Fleer set, so I'm putting together that, but I'm also selling cards, obviously as a business full time, which fuels and funds And I think people do that on different levels,
I
obviously.
would argue that it is extremely rare to find a pure collector or a pure investor in the hobby.
True. Yeah, there's a merge.
And
there's a spectrum of people.
One of your customers is a pure collector. He opens and he never sells
I literally
anything.
have a customer who Mike and I have asked on numerous occasions if he'll ever sell a card. Like, he's never sold a card.
That's a pure collector.
That's
a unicorn.
And to the point where, like, he pulled a Patrick Mahomes rookie Donruss press proof numbered to 10. He doesn't even know where it is. It's in literally his room is so full of cards. He's like, yeah, I can't even find it. I know it's penny sleeve. I'm like, it's probably like a $6,000 to $8,000 card. And that's what I told him. I said, you could rip wax for the next few months and not pay a dime. Like, we'll just give you store credit. Like, if you don't want money and you're allergic to that or something, but like, there's this sense where, like, for him, he's like, well, but I might sell it. It might go up. And I think it's interesting. He's as far on that spectrum.
I would like that. Yeah.
But now I think you have a lot of people obviously coming in on the other spectrum where they're not getting into it initially for collecting, but I think what happens is you start making money in it, you have some money, and you start realizing I actually like cards.
If you're a pure investor, I do think eventually you go, I'm going to keep that one. Yeah. And now you just went the other way a little bit.
I think you still find just a rare love for, how hard it was to acquire that card.
Yeah.
Or, a set like, let's say, Prism Pink Ice.
Yeah.
I like the pink cards. I don't know what it is. It's me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a true story. I'm not just saying
keep making them.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
I like the pink ice, the purple ice.
Classic line I heard from a customer of ours who actually just sold a massive card. Just got into the hobby 2 years ago. He said a line one time, and I'll tell you a little bit about this card in a second. He literally said to me he had a Patrick Mahomes 101 Rookie Select Auto Black BGS 95.
I remember you guys.
And we sold this for him 2 years ago, and he literally said it was hard for him to sell it because he goes, I can get a lot more money. I'll never get this card again.
Correct.
Like, he knew this card, when it leaves my possession, he's like, I can make $100,000. I can make $200,000. Like, people know, like, working people that are in, middle class, like, I have the ability to acquire more money, but, like, there are certain cards that come across your possession that you'll never get again.
While it's possible to see a card like that pop back up,
yep,
I would argue over 50% end up in a personal collection never to be seen again.
Right. And Jeremy actually deals with a lot of those guys that are buyers on that higher level, and you've probably heard those similar lines.
Oh, I mean, I say that all the time. I mean, Clint here also sold me another card that I'm still sad I sold. So Clint sold me a few years back, maybe a year and a half ago, about 2 years ago, a 1997 Precious Metal Gems Tim Duncan rookie.
Oh, I remember you having.
And it was the championship version, which is the stepchild of
the green or the
Precious Metal Gems, but it is numbered less than the red ones, but it still goes for less money. But there's something so beautiful about the championship set. To be honest, I almost like that set better than the PMG Reds.
Yeah.
But
they don't have the popularity of sort of value, but they're rarer and cool. And
I mean, I don't know. I mean, cards like that, they
disappear too.
Yeah, they disappear. It doesn't come back out. Right. I mean, I've got a handful of those type of cards in my collection that I don't show to
you would
anybody.
have to go through quite the trauma.
You
have to scratch Jeremy's back to even get access to those cards.
I don't even show them to people because when I show them to people, they make me an offer I can't refuse, and then I hate myself because I don't have it anymore.
Actually,
talk a
little bit about Jeremy. You've said this before where I've had a card for sale, and you've asked, has this ever been listed on eBay? Because he said something about some of his customers value buying a card that's never been listed before. It's kind of a unique.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Oh, yeah. I got 100%. So super high-end cards or ultra-rare cards, once that card's hit eBay, it's dead to a large portion of my high-end customers. So
really,
100%.
What's the theory
because it's
behind
been available to somebody else besides them.
They wanted access exclusively.
They want exclusive access. They want it to be. It's never been available before.
So do you think? So we talked about this in previous podcasts.
Interesting.
The white whale of Bowman draft, the Evan Longoria Super. Do you think there's a chance that was pulled, acquired by one of these types of people, and we will literally never see that card?
Well,
I mean, it could obviously still be in boxes.
I think it's less likely that it went to one of those people, and it's just in somebody like the last guy that you guys were talking about, that Clint's customer.
Yeah. Okay.
It's sitting in his box, and it won't be unearthed for 10, 15 more years
until it gets passed.
Or it literally is in a 9-year-old box.
That's what exactly.
And
they
maybe
what they have,
put in the trash.
Most of the super high-end super collectors that I have, or for collections like that, it's typically like ultra rare Jordan, Kobe, items that LeBron that just aren't seen.
But not necessarily a 101.
No, not necessarily a 101. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, those guys like 101s, but those are actually almost less interesting than just a ridiculous patch.
So you're talking about, I get what you're saying.
Like exquisite.
So something that you can
MT.
identify as different than even other cards in the set.
Well, a LeBron, let's say patch rookie of a card number or a Jordan from 03 might be numbered to 23, but there hasn't been another one besides the one that's for sale been shown up on the internet in 5 years.
Or maybe they have the one that's 4 colors.
Yeah.
And there's not another 4 colors.
Well, let me ask you this. So do you think those guys won't go out and buy or bid on a card like that on auction if they like it? Like, so let's say PWCC or Probstein or Heritage has, a big-time exquisite LeBron rookie patch. Like, do they go, well, I don't want to be a part of that because I wanted it to come to me directly? And how does that relate to even the auction
I think
side of it?
I hear exactly what you're saying. I think those guys are what I'm going to call hobby purists.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right? So if it doesn't come from another member of the hobby or in their group or something along those lines, they don't really try and acquire those
cards. So they're
cards
literally in their best friend's basement, and he said, "Hey, look what I got," and he's like, "Let me get that off for you."
Then
and
it's
that's
okay.
a hobby purist.
That's a hobby purist.
Yeah.
Or they're
I
in
went over to my best friend's house and we did some trading.
or they're in these special Facebook groups or something like that. But because somebody put something on PWCC to get the top price, while these guys might pay that price, they would rather not pay it to them. They'd rather pay it to their friend.
This is the first I'm hearing of this concept.
This is super insightful, and actually, it's interesting. I had this conversation at the first national we did in Chicago. You were there, John. I talked to a guy who I think I had a Dion PMG.
Yeah.
And a guy wanted to acquire it, and I was like, "Oh, do you collect Dion?" Or and he goes, "No, I have a buddy who collects Dion, and the only way I can get cards from him is to trade him other cards. Like he won't let me buy cards from him. Like money means nothing to him. In other words, you need to show up with a card that I want that's rare." And he goes, "This is trade bait, which I'll buy it from you so that I can actually get what I want from someone else." So it's like a weird form of like another. It's a different form of currency. Yeah, so it's like the purifying of the hobby, where it's like, hey, we don't want the guys that are just anybody can show up at a show with a bunch of money. Like there's a lot of people in the world with a lot of money.
That's the whole concept.
Give me a card.
Like, I got money. It's like, I don't need your money. I got money.
Yeah, I don't need your money. I need a card. Go get me a card, which is
awesome.
Super funny.
Well, and on top of that, it's harder to get that card than it is to get the money, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to make them work for it. If you want something from me, you're going to work for it. It's 100% that it's exactly that.
That's awesome. I love that.
So we're going to definitely put up your information here, but how can people contact you if they want to start submitting, and then what will your website be?
So my website will end up being Common Guy Sports. It's in the process of being made right now. You can't click into it.
When do you
yet.
think you'll be done?
It depends. There's a lot of coding and API work to go into my PSA website and get all the tracking system made up. So hopefully in a couple weeks that'll be up and running.
Cool.
We'll see what happens though. You know how that works. But right now you can go onto Facebook. My group is Dirty's Grading. It is semi an adult group. There's no nerdity or anything like that, but there's abnormal culture talk and different things like that may not be.
So I need to become a member of this group.
Right.
Yeah, so you need to become a member. I'm a member. One of the cool things is if you guys do submit cards with Jeremy, he does reveal videos, which is super fun to watch. Like you can just hop on your phone, watch it live. He'll go live, and you can see what other people got for grading. A lot of fun banter, a lot of
this
it's a
is last
community.
podcast where you got crushed and you're like everybody's making fun of you.
Yeah, I got crushed. Yeah, Jeremy. Yeah, it was a painful 1990s basketball.
Clint got destroyed. He wouldn't even let me show.
Yeah, I don't even think I had him show it. It was
he wouldn't let me
5s and 6s are embarrassing for a deal.
He came and took it, and he goes, "You can't show this.
You can't. It's just too bad." I think I had like 1 or 2 8s. That was as good as I did.
Yeah, I remember you brought it over the day we taped it. I'm like, bro, what went on here?
It looked like it was my first order ever.
He got a little excited when that collection came in. He couldn't help himself.
Part of it is sometimes when you see a Planet Metal or a Metal Universe Jordan, the Planet Metal insert, it just looks so good that you can't see the flaws in your own card. And actually,
you called me the day you acquired.
Well, let me say this. This is true, and this is a point for card collectors. Is sometimes, and I think this is true for other areas where you want to think your cards are the best condition. And Jeremy's taught me this in I think he has a good grading eye over the years that he's developed, is like, as much as you like a card, don't let the emotion of the card being yours cause you to just grade it for no reason. Like, give yourself the ability to see the flaw of the card, which I think ultimately will save you the disappointment, the financial loss of grading cards that shouldn't be. And
however, like a Planet Metal Jordan, when you went to go sell it, let's say did you get a 6 on it?
I think I got a 5 or 6. I just got an 8 on.
But here's the thing: when you get that back, you know what the grade is.
Yep.
You know, I know it's not a 10. I know it's not an 8. I know it's not a 9.
Hey, Clint, next time you want to look at those, just compare it to my PSA 10 Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, that's a sick card.
Name drop.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, yeah, I got a few goodies in the box. You're definitely still a collector. I love it.
I'm a hoarder.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
I learned something new.
Stuff.
I was like, my biggest claim to fame is I never left the hobby. And I'm like, I had no idea about these hobby purists.
Oh, yeah.
Hobby purists.
Money can't buy you everything. It can't get you cards sometimes. Sometimes you need cards to get cards.
And
you need relationships.
You need street rep to jump in this group.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Good stuff. Thanks, man.
All right. So I think I got something for you,
Yeah.
Clint. I just happened to see this on Twitter today.
Yeah.
I haven't thought much about it from my standpoint from low-end shipping on eBay. So apparently it got posted somewhere.
Prices went up.
No.
They did, though.
Okay. Yeah.
Shipping eBay.
Yeah, that's true. I noticed that.
Did you notice that?
I didn't. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait.
You're like, I used to make 80 cents on
that's not the way
shipping.
it's
Now it's a quarter.
But they got posted somewhere and then taken down when people started asking about it. 75-cent plain white envelope with tracking.
So you could buy tracking for.
You buy a label on
PWE.
eBay, 75 cents.
Huh.
Here are the rules: $20 or less. Okay, this is the part where everybody's baffled. You can send 4 raw cards or 2 cards and top loaders.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know how I verify.
Send me a raw
No,
card
they're going to
in a
verify this
PWE.
because in the order, they're not going to let you print the label. So I already
Yep.
know how they're going to.
So right now, John, you don't send PWEs, do you?
No, I refuse because I
yeah.
can't get tracking on it.
Yeah, right.
Right?
But now you can. So
Well, no,
is
not
that gonna
now.
change?
Not now. They took it away. They said this was an error that we posted it. It's not quite ready yet.
Okay.
So this is not something happening now, but something that we may see. No graded cards. There's a maximum and a minimum
Well, and
size.
I'll say don't ever send a graded card for a couple of reasons. One is so you realize at the post office that plain white envelopes go through a machine that actually they turn. They have to be flexible.
Yeah.
That's why actually sending them in semi-rigids
Semi-rigids
is probably
is the way you wanna
better
do it.
than top loaders because of the thickness.
Right.
And if you get over a certain thickness, like it's actually an extra ounce charge. Which are they?
Yeah, that's the
They're
part
allowing
where
you to
I
ship
didn't see
2
it
top
because
loaders?
somebody
Yeah, I
had
don't know.
mentioned. Well, I think what you use for the supplies, no one's gonna be able to verify it. So send them in semi-rigids if you do this. 3 ounces, and then it has to go through eBay label.
Huh.
So interesting thing for the guys who sell $1, $2 cards, $3 cards.
Well, and that's where like ComC and some of these other websites have had an advantage, or like Burbank is you can buy $100 cards and get them all combined and shipped. Because right now it's hard to sell a $1 card.
And people are using plain white envelopes.
Because like for us, we ship everything at $3.99,
So do
and
I.
then it's $1 more per card until you get to $5.99.
I don't do
and
that.
then it's limited.
Oh,
It's
to $5.99.
$5.99. So
Okay,
because you're going to go up a couple
I
ounces.
got a
Yep.
question. Why they upcharge for the next 2 cards?
Just because the cost is actually going to go up on the weight of them. I mean, we're trying to encourage them to buy multiple.
You're trying to get them to 4.
I'm trying, or more, and then I don't care. And then if you go over that, I'll eat it if we have to go all the way to priority because you bought 5
they bought
lots
so
that
many,
actually
like, who
weigh. Now I actually have to go.
I do $3.99 flat.
Yep.
I
So you don't add if they do
Nope,
multiple. So
just
any additional card,
1,
no
2,
cost.
3,
Yeah,
1,000. I don't care.
$3.50 plus $1, so $4.50 max. That's
And then you go up to
And then do you cap it or you just
to $4.50.
$4.50 capped? Okay, yeah, that's not bad. I mean,
Yeah, and this is usually where the pricing structure for shipping is on eBay for most major sellers.
I mean, if you
because we have to have tracking because
Otherwise, you
gonna
don't
hit our
become
metrics, and then
yeah, because
we're
you can't be a top-rated
SOL.
seller if you don't have tracking uploaded on
Right.
what is it, 95% or whatever.
Right.
And so I don't want to lose the percent
Correct.
gain on fees.
So
to,
I don't know. It's interesting. And when it actually pops up, I'm sure I'll see it and I'll hit the drop down and be like, "Oh man, it's here." I don't know what to think about this in terms of if I'm going to change anything.
Yeah, I mean, we calculated shipping cost, and I think so at $3.99 when it was $2.66 to ship through eBay. I think we maybe netted like 80 cents. But
starting
when
to
you
lose a
figure,
little
but
bit
when
of
you
money
figure
now.
if you're paying an employee to pull the card and ship
Yeah.
it, it's essentially a break even. So I mean, I think
I'm wondering on a single card or up to 4, if I do use it, all I might do is just refund $2.
yeah, that's an option. I mean,
Just refund. Hey, I'm gonna send it PWA. If you want PWA, I can refund $2. Or maybe
do you think the maintenance on that?
I don't
goes-
know.
I don't think you want to.
that's why I'm just I learned this information.
No, I know. I'm
3
thinking
hours
about it
ago.
out loud right now too. If I even want to do that, part of it is I don't want to jeopardize the integrity of the card. So we ship all of our cards
that's a
in a
factor.
top loader between 2 pieces of cardboard. We have thousands of them cut 4x3
Yep.
in a team bag because I want them to be able to reuse their top loader and not have tape and I mean I've had and it goes in a team bag sealed and then in a bubble mailer. And
Yeah.
so like it's gonna be 3 ounces, and I
Right.
mean, so we
And
might
you get to
add
maybe 30-ish cards before you
we
look
might
past
add
the
50 cents now just to like keep our margin what it was
Right.
with the upcharge, because I think today I think local, like within the close Midwest, it was like it's 309 and it
Yeah.
was 266. Is
Yeah.
that what you saw too?
Yeah, I'm
and
seeing that.
then like California was like 3.
Well, here's the thing: like when somebody buys $1 card from me, and the $3.99 shipping, I get $5 for a dollar card, and you think that's great? It infuriates me to no end. I'm like, why are you paying $5 for this card? Now I got to do all this work to make 90 cents. Like what? Not even to make. I'm not even making 90 cents. I'm just getting 90 cents. I'm like, buy 5 more cards.
Want to sell more cards? List more cards.
Yeah, and the winner on that deal is eBay and the post office.
And the post office,
right.
yeah.
I mean, they're getting a card that if they actually wanted it as a collector.
Why are we paying $5 for this card?
Yeah, but part of it is, as collectors, we don't always make financially motivated decisions. Like, for example, I grade Paul Muller cards.
Yeah.
I'm paying more to grade than it's going to be
Well,
worth because I need
did
it in my
pay-
registry.
I did end up paying $15 for the Brandon Roy refracted.
Which, by the way, I don't know, for those of you who are collectors, if you use the PSA registry, do you use it ever? Do you have it? So I started it with my 86 Flair set. You take a picture of the card, you scan it, then it automatically puts in your inventory, and then it's actually fun to you actually have all the photos digitally. And if you want, so I have a customer who came into the shop who has the top-rated 1956 Topps baseball set on PSA.
Oh, wow.
So they rank them. Everything is 8 or better in a set, and there's both a white and a gray
Has
back.
to be 8?
No, his is.
Oh, his is. Okay.
So it's weighted. Stars get a heavier
But you
weight.
can have a PSA registry of all ones and be on the registry.
And be on the registry,
Okay.
right? The cool part for him is he's actually thinking about selling the entire set, and he can send it to, let's say, Heritage or whoever he decides to sell it with, and he can actually send the registry information. They can go on PSA's website and actually see photos
Oh, wow.
of all the cards beforehand, and it tracks it, and it gives you all the
Well,
descriptions.
wouldn't he also
and-
get a premium at a Heritage auction of being the number
one
set
for
on
sure.
PSA registry? Buy it, you
and
have
he's
it.
so anal that he would go. He's actually a teacher in Prior Lake, and anal in a good way. Like he would take an 8 that was off center slightly and upgrade to a more centered 8.
Yeah.
And so like his thing is centering, and so he has like dead centered 8s.
Wow.
And he told me a story actually. He bought in the 90s. He bought a Jackie Robinson.
I'm already jealous.
I think he bought it for like $200 raw on eBay, and this was before grading was even a thing.
Right.
He sent it in himself and got an 8. And now, I mean, so he was doing that. He was buying raw cards from the 50s on eBay.
Right.
I don't know how the heck that thing got shipped to him, but I've had a lot of people ship
Probably a
cards
plain
around.
white
Like,
envelope.
it's probably a plain white envelope. Like, you're
No,
like,
probably not
you're
that
like,
kind,
how
but
did
yeah.
this thing hold up? It's an 8. It's like a $15,000 card. I mean, his set's got to be worth.
He definitely sent him a money order, though.
I mean, his
guarantee that.
set's got to be
Checks I
300,000.
used to get.
Yep.
I mean, because that set's got 2 cards of each player in 8,
Oh,
because
right,
there's a
yeah.
white and a gray back. So he's got the master set. So,
nuts.
but anyway, the registry's cool for that. So,
All
that
right,
to be
so
said.
you wanted to talk about something I completely forgot what it was.
Well, do you want to connect with him before you probably got to get going?
What's that?
You want to get going?
Oh, okay.
You got to get going? I don't know if you want to sit and listen to us, or
Oh, it's
if
kinda fun.
we jump in on some
I
more
wanna
stuff.
hear your crap.
All right, so
I love it.
the thing I want to talk about is actually when we were talking about what makes a business. Like, one of the things I've learned in business is the importance of like sales channels, and actually Jeremy is a part of that for us because we move a ton of like dollar autos, commons, stuff like that to him. John is you're part of that.
Yep.
Like, our relationship has been, you run KBID,
Right.
which for those of you listening, tell me a little bit about. Did you know about it before I talked to you about?
So we talked just a little bit before the podcast, and then as we started it, I was like, "You swear that you introduced me to KBID?" I said, "Nah." And then about 30 seconds later, I went, "Yeah, maybe you did." I do not remember how I heard about it.
So I found out about it because my dad's a gun collector and just a auction hoarder. Like,
Junkie.
so my dad runs a tree farm that, when the season ends at Christmas Day, he
Got no
has
work left
he has
to
2
do.
or 3 months before the snow melts and there's work to do, and so he just lives on these auction sites buying stuff because you got to
Right.
spend the money he made, I guess. And there's certain things he collects. Winchester 94 30-30 rifles, so some of those guns pop up, but he follows all these local auction houses, which it's kind of fills an interesting need. Like, it's not quite eBay
Nope.
because it's not the high-end stuff, and it's not
Well,
quite
they sell
Craigslist.
$30,000 combines. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, there's high dollar utilities, things that can't be shipped,
But not
So
necessarily collectible.
collectibles are new, like,
Right.
to KBID. It's kind of like Craigslist, but I don't want to deal with the
Well, they
uncertainty of
actually-
like meeting someone who may not show
So,
up, and like
I know a little more about KBID because I ended up being the affiliate, so then I had to go to their all-day class.
so you had to learn kind of the history.
So they
of it.
started out as a live auctioneer, mainly targeting farmers and people in more rural areas.
Agricultural,
and
yep.
that's why we still
Yep.
seeing a lot of combines and
Yep.
a lot of
Makes sense.
equipment. And then I think it started moving to like more estate sales and things like that to clean out.
Yep.
What I did learn there at the class they had is this is very much a Midwestern thing.
Yep.
So right before I got hooked up with them, before I took the class, I had a buddy of mine that I went to school with, Gallaudet,
Yep.
and he was trying to move like a industrial shrink wrapper.
Something
Like
that
a
was
$500
like way too heavy to.
Yeah, you can't ship it, you can't go on eBay.
But you actually want to auction it.
Yeah,
you don't want to just
Craigslist
like set a
kinda
price
like,
and you want to move
So
it.
I said, oh yeah, there's these auction houses. There's one in Minnesota like KBID. I just find an affiliate, give it to him.
Yeah.
He lives in Alabama.
Yeah.
I searched for 3 hours. I couldn't find an auction house
Like that.
anything like KBID. Whereas in Minnesota, there's probably
So the
8.
way KBID works is KBID manages the website like eBay,
Right.
but all the
platform.
sellers are independent affiliates, just like an Amazon or an eBay seller, and they actually have physical space warehouses where you type in your zip code, and there's a ton of these. There's like a bid to buy, and there's a
Right.
bunch of other
But
similar
it's very
websites.
much a Midwestern thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, and so what part of that is like as a business owner, you're always learning like which channels are best to move certain items, right? Because you buy a collection, and it's like everything has a home,
Right.
but like how do I get it there most efficiently, right?
Yeah,
I'm
I
always,
literally, when I take in a collection, I try to process everything same day.
yeah.
And I have a small shop. I don't have room to.
Everything goes in a bucket,
I can't
right?
put
Yeah.
it in the back, right?
Right.
So I'm literally going eBay, in-store, KBID, and then I assume at some point it's going to be like, oh, my customer wants this. I know who that's
So
going
so
to.
run down for everybody. Like, what would you say all your channels are? Because I think
So right
ours are
now it's
similar.
eBay, the
Yep.
storefront.
And what's going to eBay versus what's going to other?
eBay is. So what I do is I do player variation listings on
Yep.
eBay. It allows me to get my processing time to 1 minute per card.
Yep.
Listed, and so that allows me to list a lot of low-end cards. And once I've established the full network or
Yep.
the full
Yep.
database of players,
Yep.
then
It's
which I'm
easy to
pretty
plug
much
'em
at
in,
right
right.
now, I'm only adding the brand new rookies or the
Yep.
guys who just
You have
popped.
the upfront work already done, the
Right.
labor.
And so what happens is then when I get some of the same cards, then I already have a picture up. I just change the quantity.
So do you have a dollar threshold on those?
Yeah,
like-
$1.
So it's got to be $1 like sold listing,
Right.
or if you already have a quantity and you just add the quantity,
right. So
then
an 87 top Bo Jackson, something you're going to see a million times. I've seen it a million times at your store. I think I've already
there's
had
a million
30
of them. Yep.
Well, every time I get those in collection, now it's just like when I do go to update my Bo Jackson, I'm just changing the quantity number. I don't have to put any work into it.
Sure.
Other than.
And now someone could literally buy all 30 of them.
Yes.
Now you're not doing lots of them though,
No.
ever. So you're always doing them as a single card. But you can
30.
buy them in lot for
And
that price.
So my theory is, and I think it's working out, but I probably need a little more data. But my theory was, I've sold big cards. I've sold $100 plus cards
out of a multi-listing.
out of the multi-listing variation when they're mostly $2.
Now, how does
$4
eBay ding you? So, like, so those of you guys listening, you might not have an anchor store like John has or whatever. So you only have, let's say, 100. Can you do a multi-listing and that counts as one no matter how many
that
are under it?
That counts as one listing.
Yep.
You can go up to 250, which I do not advise. I have one listing that's 250. The time it takes to revise. So you click on the link to revise your listing. There's so many photos in there.
It has to load.
It's It's like generating the thing to open, and sometimes it times out. So what I've learned.
So is that related to internet speed, or that's just the way the site?
There's just so many photos in there,
yeah.
and so.
You need a gaming computer.
Yeah. Or it's on eBay's side. I don't know. I don't know the answer. You think it's a computer?
Yeah, it's your processor.
And so I've learned that like 150 is sort of like the max. Because the other thing, when you're loading them, they don't have there's a term for this. You might know what it is. So I have to scroll all the way down the list to add the next new photo.
It has to go to the bottom.
Yeah, and
so you have to go
they
through
don't have
all the
like
other ones.
that window inside the page where I can scroll down and then just keep doing it. That's kind of a pain in the ass. I've learned about.
So what's your max size normally now? If
150, 120. That's kind of
and
a pain in the ass.
And when you're doing that, I assume that 150 is less likely to be a player lot as to be like a set, like a Prism set.
I have a player lot that's 100 over 100 cards.
Okay, so now it will get to a point that for that player you'll create a second.
For that player,
listing.
I already know what I'm going to do. So let's say Ken Griffey Jr. the one with a long career, lots of inserts, whatever.
Yep.
Once I get to that, I am going to have to redo them. So then I'll probably go, okay, let me take all of his. I'll just go. So right now it's Ken Griffey Jr. base insert parallel / UPEC.
Yep.
And that's the title.
Yep.
And then you don't put Ken Griffey Jr. in your listing. You just put the year, set name, card number.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once it gets too big, what I'll probably do is I'll just go, okay, it's going to, instead of Ken Griffey Jr., it's going to be 1989, 1990 Ken Griffey Jr. base insert parallel UPEC.
Now let me ask you.
And then I'll just do them by years as
so
they get too big.
When people buy out of those, do you see what's like the average quantity of total cards? Are they mostly going to be buying a single card, or do you see it produce like an average of 4 or 5 sales?
The average might be 6, but most likely, but the most cards. So average. So we're talking about. Average is kind of a weird stat, so I don't really like average because average is I sold one with one quantity, one with 100.
More like
quantity.
A median.
Well, that's a 50 average. I sold one of 100. I would say I'm between 5 and 12 cards per transaction.
So we take a little different approach. We don't do any variation listings. At this point, we tend to do player lots more often, where we'll actually take 12 of a player or like a set or like a partial set and list 12 different Tyler Heroes, rather than doing a variation of that player, which those have actually moved really well for us because it seems like guys who start collecting a player, it's like an easy way to get 30, 50, whatever. And sometimes we'll do all 30 of one player as more of like an investment lot of somebody, but we tend to either do lots or single cards and not do a variation. But it's interesting to kind of contemplate the advantage of that.
I had explained to you that theory. I just never had the inventory to execute the theory.
Yep.
It's just a theory.
Yeah.
And so once I bought the collection in November, I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I might be 1,000% wrong, and this is the worst way to sell cards ever in the history of the world. But it was always going to stick up my brain, and if I didn't do it, I would be obsessing about it.
Well, and then the nice part is like even some of that stuff that we did a trade on, I brought you a bunch of stuff. Like there's a bunch of color parallels of the same year of basketball. I assume a variation listing for a set builder is going to be good for that.
I'll take all those cards out, alphabetize them, and then what I'm going to do is once I get about 4 or 5 of the same player, it's not worth really updating one card because again, there's a little bit of load time to revise it. But once I get like 4 or 5 or more, then I'll open up that player listing and I'll just add those 4 cards to it. And it's probably to add cards. It's probably 2 minutes a card.
Okay.
When you start out with 30 and it's a brand new listing, it's actually the more cards you
there's
have, the
upfront
less time. It'll take.
So eBay is a main channel, and that's going to be related to value of card.
So it's
but also
apparel, and then obviously high dollar cards, and then anything that would fit a player listing.
Yep.
Then I have the in-store sale channel.
Yep.
So anything that I don't want to have a player listing for.
Is there? But obviously, like local players, are you gonna then not list them?
Yeah, so like twin stuff I'll have even if it's necessary because like I got some puckets back in the graded order.
Yeah.
I'm not listing these on eBay. I got a card shop in Minnesota. Why am I listing Curry puckets?
I don't want to pay eBay fees.
Yeah, I could throw
Sell
my K-bid and do that.
Yeah.
And then that third channel is K-bid, which was a absolute key channel for me because I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get a big shop right away.
Yep.
And I had to move that bulk. I don't have that big shop where your normal card shop owner will get in a big collection, take out the stuff they want to sell, and then put it in the back. I'm doing air quotes. Put it in the back.
Put it in the back.
And then there it says for 15 years.
Let the back
one,
get
I don't
real.
want to do that. And 2, I don't have the ability to do that.
So cash flow wise, you want to be able to move that stuff. Actually, one of the things I actually had a long conversation with a friend of ours today who used to take the approach of buy a collection, sell the easiest, biggest stuff first. And then deal with the rest of it later, get your money back. And he said recently he's kind of shifted to the approach, which is an interesting idea, is sell all the lowest end stuff first.
Keep all there.
Get your money back, and then you have something left at the end that's easier. And with cards being in a market right now that it's appreciating as fast as it is, one of the cards I recently sold him was a PSA 9 Bowman Brady rookie. And I noticed, I asked him, I'm like, do you sell? He's like, no, I'm selling everything else first. And one of the benefits is if, let's say 2-3 months from now, Tampa's doing well and they're going to be in the Super Bowl, that card's left. You've already made your money back, and that card's actually gone up in value.
Yeah, you're getting big monster cards for free. I mean, there's labor involved.
What you're doing is you're lowering your cost basis to 0. And then what happens is if you want to take the chance of, like, let's say you want to sit on that card because you think it has upside, now you're sitting on it with a lower cost basis, so lower risk.
Even if it doesn't have upside, a Brady rookie is so liquid.
It's so easy
if
to
it
sell.
Dropped in value for
or
some
let's say
reason,
you decide, you know what, I don't want to sell it online and pay the fees. I'm going to take it to the next show I go to and hopefully sell it in store. Yeah, it's going to be a card I can sell, whereas I'm not going to bring a bunch of bulk and,
And so so those are my main 3 channels. Every one of them is absolutely critical. I'd be kind of struggling if I didn't have one of them.
Yep, each of them serves a purpose.
Absolutely.
So for me, I had down K-bid for us, eBay obviously. Another pile I have is the 2 go to PSA pile, which
is the new one for me. Yeah.
Which the go to PSA pile or go to BGS
Not
or get graded
channel.
When it comes back, I'm talking more on the front end when you get the collection. Then I can decide, okay, is this sell on eBay? Do I sell this direct?
I can definitely add that one.
Yep.
Now.
So you add that, and then another one would be like another sales channel would be personal relationships, which Jeremy's a big part of that.
Yes.
You're a part of that. I got another guy I sell a bunch of vintage to, and I have a bunch of collectors that I go. We have a guy who just collects Dan Marino. So literally, he comes in 3 times a week.
Oh wow!
Anytime I get a rare Dan Marino, I don't do anything with it other than put it
when I
for
worked
him,
Hobby
or whatever
Heroes, it was Mark Brunel. There was a Mark Brunel collector.
Nice.
And if we got Mark Brunel in, he didn't go in a case. He just kept it behind. He came in.
It's like me if I was your customer. Like, I hope every Paul Molitor, you did this the other day, you said a bunch of Molitors that some of them are inserts, jersey. I mean, I'm going to be your guy. It's like, why?
Well, now,
why do more
I don't
work?
have that 4th one. I just don't have the number of customers. And I'm building those relationships. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where, that's actually that's probably the best sales.
Another one I have that you didn't mention, but you actually turned me on to it first was check out my cards.
Oh,
So that serves the purpose for us of like maybe what you're doing for multi-listings.
I'm basically
them.
with the variation listing
doing that.
I'm replacing check out my cards.
Do you think you can list those cards for less than 30 cents a piece? Your time,
I don't
if
know.
you were to calculate that.
I don't know.
Because that's what it costs essentially.
Right, I don't know.
I can teach you how.
What?
I can teach you how.
Scanner.
No, well, one is the scanner, right?
Yep.
Getting the right scanner to pop those, because pictures are a big chunk of that time.
Yep.
But if I'm already at a minute, a card, maybe.
Okay.
I'd have to.
Because right now, like we're at the place where we're thinking about maybe in the new year would be the beginning, because I got Christmas trees to sell between now and then, so we can't really add it. Is starting the scanner. The question is like, can I hire an employee to run that efficiently enough to cost me less per card than I'm paying to check out my cards?
Here's what I would say.
Yes, but you need a super knowledgeable employee.
You need an eligible employee, because one of the benefits to check out my cards is they title it for you, and they actually sometimes I'll send them cards that I'm like, I don't know, I can't figure out what this is, and they have a research team that like has got a lot of stuff right. They've actually.
I would say this, that you can get to a point where you're cheaper than check out my cards because Burbank doesn't send a check out my cards.
Right.
So
Yep.
So Burbank obviously has a system.
But the downside to Burbank is they sell it through eBay.
Yeah.
Whereas check out my cards,
well,
they sell it through
eBay as well.
No, but they do, but they also sell through their own website.
No, true.
And so you can run sales on check out my cards, and people will get it through their website, but it won't bring a discount on eBay or Amazon. And actually it's Amazon too, so it's all three of those channels, which I've seen our check out my cards. We sell more cards on Amazon, obviously, in the fourth quarter during the holiday season than any other time of the year.
Right.
So that's kind of a cool.
I think one benefit, though, to having the variation listings, especially with the shop, is that if I have a customer in here and he's like, "Oh man, I've done this a few times. I'm a big fan of it because it's a little extra labor, but I can serve their desires better because they're like, oh man, you got any Roberts? Well, yeah, I got a variation listing.
Sure.
I can go in the back. I can go, this is what I got. Oh,
you,
I want those.
You have the cards on site. Whereas I go, like I always people ask, like, oh, do you guys have anything online? I'm like, yeah. I mean, we got like 5,000 listings in store, but I have another 20,000 offsite. But to be honest, most of those cards I'm sending them, like, wouldn't be the cards they're asking for exactly. Like, there's a reason I'm putting them in that bucket.
Yeah, I mean,
you know
I still think I'm in experimenting phase right now. I mean, talk to me 5 years from now, I'm like, variation listings suck. I hate them. You know, I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know if I want to be the guy selling on Beckett Marketplace 1,035,000 cards. I don't know if I want to, like, part of it is every business has to ask themselves, like, who am I? What do I specialize in? Jeremy, obviously, you do grading, which is a huge part of your business.
I was a Beckett Marketplace dealer for a few years.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, actually.
So Beckett Marketplace at the time was actually great. I mean, if you want to build your business model around it, it's not bad. I mean, you're creating a job for yourself. You got to keep that in mind.
Yes.
Because so I had 1 million cards in inventory, 250,000 unique items, something like that. If that makes sense to you.
So you would add quantity.
Yeah, so that means I had quantity of individual
So
cards.
a unique item would be a 1991 Upper Deck Jeff Bagwell, but the quantity would be I had 50 of them.
Yeah,
so
whatever the quantity might be.
One unique item.
Yeah, I had 1 million cards, 250,000 unique.
Nice.
So I was actually doing really well. I had my sales per month were really pretty nice for that amount of cards.
What did they charge you to host it, or what's your fees?
Again, I think every listing tool in the world, pretty much across the board at this point, is still about 20%.
Yep.
I call everything. Remember, I told you that many times, Clint. I don't care if you sell on eBay; it's 13%, whatever.
If you go to a show
at the time of shipping, if whatever, it costs you 20% to sell a card. It was the same thing on there.
Yep.
So Beckett got a monthly fee plus 4% if it's sold on eBay, or if you had it on your site, it was. But you had minimums you had to hit, different things like that. So I called it 20% at the end.
How much maintenance on the shipping side? Like, were you sending? Were a lot of people buying like 200-300 cards, or was there a lot of like 200-300?
There's a lot of set builders,
Yeah, it's designed for set builders, right?
Okay.
I mean, so you rarely sold cards that were over $50 or $100. So that stuff you wouldn't even put on the Beckett Marketplace for the most part, unless it was like uber unique, right? So you're designing it for set builders. So what I'd have is, I rip brand new products, except right when it came out, I'd rip 2 to 3 cases of pretty much everything right when it came out. The first 3 weeks of set release was just bonkers for me every single time.
Yep.
You'd sell, your average customer was buying, let's say, 15 to 20 cards, typically of the same set, or they were a Kirby Puckett collector. I mean, were you
selling a lot of rookie lots as well? Like,
so
20 of the same rookie?
So, Bowman at that time, you're screwed if you do, screwed if you don't, right? So if you listed all of your Bowman prospects, all the good guys were snatched up before Bowman got good. So I tried to not list my Bowman rookies. But otherwise, I mean, somebody was going to have an autograph signing in St. Louis, so one of the blues players or whatever, they'd buy everyone you had.
100 blue. There's one guy like, what the hell? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so shops are just going on there and snatching it up at $0.25 a card or 35 cents a card or whatever.
They might have been reselling those for $2 a card.
Yeah, whatever they're doing with them. I mean, whatever. It didn't matter. It was good. I mean,
profitable.
It was profitable. Like I said, you're giving yourself work. So if
you're afraid of work,
it's not going to work for you.
No. If you're afraid to work.
Yeah. But, it was great for a few years, and then Beckett decided to revamp their website, and they really screwed the pooch on that one.
What
So
did
now
they do
what?
wrong?
Oh, God.
My sales dropped 80% overnight, and just because they revamped the website, they were trying to make it better for their consumer, and the consumers hated it. It was super unfriendly. It took them.
What was the change? Just it was harder to navigate?
Apparently, just checkout wasn't working. They put it on a different server. It wasn't working properly. So things weren't. So I stayed on for about another 8 months at 80% or 20% of what I was selling, and then I like you guys, you can only tread water for so long. And it's time to get into a new pool.
So what's your channels now? What do you?
So my channels now. So I buy. Clint, I buy volumes of product. So the bigger the collection, the better. And I resell to the company that fills Targets and Walmarts as part of it. I buy jerseys and autos nonstop on open boxes.
Which actually, Jeremy's another category for us, both commons and then dollar autos and jerseys. That's another bucket of in the relationship category. If I just go, that's going there.
Yeah. So I got that. I do a little bit on eBay, not a ton. I do a lot of the big shows. I'm going to Dallas here next weekend.
Nice.
That'll be
live
fun.
show.
Live show.
That's going to be hopping.
It's going to be hopping.
No masks?
Well, masks are technically supposed to be used.
Yeah.
Last time it was fairly optional.
Do you have any open tables? Are there open tables available?
There hasn't been open. There wasn't open tables when I got my table, but I am who I am, so I made it happen.
I am who I am.
So you might have a case I could.
No. But it should be a good show. I think it's going to be real busy. Chicago got shut down for November. That's usually my big.
I would
go-to.
bet there are people coming into that Dallas show that don't go to that Dallas show because they missed the national.
Else going,
Oh, 100%. There's definitely big dealers that bought other people's spot who had a table and they took it from them because
this last Dallas show, what was selling? Who was hot?
The last Dallas show, a lot of guys said they liked it. It was kind of a flop for me. Although I don't do brand new product, you guys know that.
Yeah,
I'm an old school dude. I'm an OG.
Let's go.
Most everything was guys who just got into the hobby. 2017 and newer stuff is what they had.
Okay.
So it just didn't do it for me. I think we're going to see a lot bigger, variety of different cards in
are you
the show this time.
To buy and sell equally, or more on the sell side?
So I'm, at big shows, I very rarely buy.
Okay.
I go around to the tables and buy, but I, very.
Are you just too busy?
Not that I'm necessarily too busy. It's just, my business model is to buy from the end consumer, somebody who just doesn't want their collection anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm designed to go buy somebody's basement, their warehouse, their storage units, their sheds.
I've actually worked with Jeremy on a lead before where we just turned him on to somebody who had literally a garage and a basement full of stuff, and it would have all gone to him anyway, so we just worked out a deal. And it was a lot of quantity, but Jeremy's developed channels too where you can move through a collection like that in a way. Well, you have some storage units too, so it doesn't all disappear.
I think I'm going to remind you guys I'm a hoarder. I got a lot of stuff.
So it doesn't all leave.
So one day American Pickers is going to show up at your house.
Oh God! I mean, if you ever see storage unit X having a locker sale, just buy it. That's all I'm saying.
Buy it.
I got
a guy named Jeremy owned this one.
I see
$1 million.
Exactly. Nice.
Just buy it.
Yeah. So, no, that's interesting that there's going to be a show going. I think there's a hunger for – one of the benefits to the hobby that I see is – and this is the benefit over the online sales is people like buying cards in the social environment. We even talked about how, a lot of the guys that we deal with, it's like family, and so shows have that dynamic. So it's interesting that as well as, online sales are going, those shows aren't going away. And as a dealer, even that's one of the things I like about the store. The one of the things you like is getting to socialize, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Hear why someone collects what they collect.
I think everybody that comes in my shop will be like, yeah, the shop's okay. The owner of the talker.
Well, and it's one of those things where people always say, if I was going to sell something, I'd rather sell cards than Kirby vacuums or whatever.
Yeah.
There's more social interaction around sports and life. And I tried to explain to my ex-wife at one point, She's like, I don't get like the card shop dynamic.
Right.
And I'm like, if I was going to describe it, it's like the male version of like the hair salon. Like guys
Yeah.
just come in. It's like the bar.
Well,
it's like
I had-
the, you know,
Yeah,
it's like
we're
it's
going to the bar, but we're not drinking.
we're not
right?
drinking,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we're all trying to recover. It's like,
We're going to spend the same amount of money, but we're not going to do anything real stupid.
And we're gonna have something kind of
and
cool.
we're not
going
going to get a DWI when we leave, and we actually might leave up instead of down.
Well, I
versus
think
the
I told
casino
you
or-
this
yeah.
before. I don't know if I said it on a podcast, but I was in a reseller Facebook group, and this guy is just, real arrogant guy comes in. He's like, "Oh, you guys buying a shirt for $3 and selling it for $20? You guys are crazy. I can't believe you live on these margins. I sell Rolex watches. I just sell $300 a year. I make so much more money than you." And I was like, I'd shoot myself in the head if I had to sell Rolex watches. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a flying crap about a watch. I don't
Right.
care about it. Like,
You don't wear them, you
wanted
don't
me to
collect them, you don't
make 10% what you make, and I can sell cards. I'm in.
I'm in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one thing I am going to say is it's something the way the metal actually lays on your wrist. It feels different, and I like it. But I'm probably not going to sell them either because I'm just a different level of douche than some of those guys.
But that goes to your point. Like,
Yeah.
if you enjoy what you're selling,
Yeah. Yeah.
then
enjoy it, yeah.
you'll probably end up making.
I mean,
the same amount.
I can't tell you how many times I've told the story of how I got into cards. For me, my grandpa I think I was 8, took me to my first card show. And he was so cheap that, we wouldn't go out to eat beforehand. So we'd go to Cub Foods and hit the samples.
Right.
And just make the round. Like, I still have these memories. Like, I remember looking at the Paul Molitor rookie card when I was 8. And I was like, it was like $120.
Yeah, it was
which
a
is
big
like,
card.
it's like 2.5 times what it is now, raw or more. And I was like, I'll never afford that card. Like, I have those memories. And it's cool. Like, and I get to see that same look in kids' eyes when they come into the shop. And it's fun,
Oh, I thought
and
that's
fathers and sons.
When I
and
bought
all
that, so I bought this collection in November, and the guy collected. He had some 50s and some 60s, some 70s, but most of it was 80s to 99. So it was literally, and so since we're the same age, it was all the stuff I couldn't have when I was a kid.
you couldn't have, yeah.
I'm like, I was surrounded myself in 90s inserts. I was
Right.
so happy.
Like, I never, like, when we bought 96 basketball, which was my last year opening cards, like, we bought Collector's Choice, the absolute
Yep.
cheapest. So, like, when I can own a Finest or an EX, I'm like, those packs I couldn't have, they were like $8 a pack,
Well,
it's
no,
like,
It is for me to find the Choice Reserve Primes.
those are nice. Yeah, those are,
Oh,
or,
no,
the, or the
like-
Collector's Choice gold
Well,
signatures.
we talked
and the,
about,
oh,
like,
yeah.
I get that first order back. I got a Draft Shack 10, and I'm like, oh, for Christ's sakes, I've never owned this stuff before. This
Yeah.
isn't the world I live in.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm getting into really weird territory, even from 6 months ago.
Right. That's the fun part of it. I mean, you get to own cards as a and this goes back to the point about the investor versus the collector. Being a dealer of cards, you get to temporarily own a bunch of cards that you might not have owned if you weren't going to flip them. You know what I mean? And
Well,
so, are you not a collector? Like, I don't know.
Well, I talked about this before. So I do consignment for Mark at Papa Hawks in Golden Valley, and I've been selling for him his non-card stuff for 4 years. You think 5 years maybe?
Yeah, probably.
Clint had introduced me to him, and he gives me boxes of stuff. He doesn't tell me what's in there. I bring it home, I process it, I get it up on eBay. Well, one day I'm just looking through them. It's like, oh, it's the Super Bowl 1, 2, 3, and 5 program. And it's like, I didn't even own them.
That's cool.
But guess what I did for a couple hours? I read every single one of those programs
that's
because I'm
cool.
never going to buy this thing.
Right. Yeah, you're never going to buy it. Right.
I got to possess. I didn't even own it for a short period of time. I possessed it for a short period of time.
Yeah, you just consigned it. Right.
I didn't have to pay for it, and I got to look at it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I got to sell the Select 101 Mahomes Black.
Yep.
That's a $100,000 card now. It might be $400 by the end of this.
So I got news about my shop.
Yeah.
Clint came in, and I said, "So what do you think?" And he's like, "About what?"
Yeah. What do I think?
I
about
go,
what?
"Seriously?" And so I've been doing this with my customers all.
Yeah. He
sort of,
called me a. What'd you call me?
Toxic masculinity, man.
Yeah. You told me I'm
I said,
I'm a bad
now,
husband because I don't recognize
said,
my.
Now I know how my wife feels when she gets a haircut. I'm like, you don't notice anything, yeah, horrible men.
Yeah, horrible men. That's what you called me.
Horrible men.
Yeah, thanks.
So
Yeah,
I was able. So the way I had my shop was I had 3 4-foot display case or 4 4-foot display cases and a counter.
Yep.
I'm literally looking at my shop so I can accurately tell this story. But then I was like, well, I didn't have the biggest bankroll open the shop. I'm like, I don't want to spend another $600 on the dog leg case.
Right.
Because I don't have a bunch of customers. I didn't have that much inventory. And so I finally was able to acquire the 6-footer that makes the dog leg to complete the layout.
With the little corner piece.
And then I had
nice.
this little corner. I didn't know what to do. I went to this fixture place in Minneapolis, and they buy out like companies, like department stores and stuff.
You're talking about Accents, right?
Yeah, Accent. What is it called? Accent store fixtures.
They moved though now, right? They were in a different.
They're really close. Yep. So I'm walking around, and there's these 2 like 2 foot wide, like flat wall, goofy things. So I'm gonna put all my supplies there, so solve 2 problems. So I've been just really happy that the layout's done in the shop.
And I know you got some. What are those figures in the boxes there? You have like.
So
cases
that's something from KBID. So a customer who buys on KBID, I believe, but somehow got turned on to KBID.
Consigned.
That got referred to me, and his father was in salvage business, and they are 230 sports impression porcelain figurines.
How tall? I saw they're pretty big boxes. They're all new in the box.
Yeah, all new in the box, never been open.
Like, what's the value? They're not. Now, there's a sports impressions figure that's autographed. These are not.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the seller did a couple things, and this is actually kind of an interesting conversation. So when you guys are looking up prices, and this is something that he did.
We should do a whole podcast on research.
Oh, right.
Like, because in the hobby, like, your knowledge is power, right?
Right.
And so, like, your ability to acquire knowledge is
and so
essential.
He had looked up. He had brought me some listings from eBay to tell me like what he had before I saw it. And so like one of the listings was a Jackie Robinson. He had 6 of them, and it was $94. I go, okay, cool. He got 4 or 5 of them. But when I looked them up, they were all listed prices. They weren't sold prices. The Jackie Robinsons are like $30.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, but I thought, I'm like, you never know. There might be some big ones in here. And so, what I found out with sports impressions are if it's not under like a 200 quantity production run, or if it's not autographed, you're usually sitting at $30 to $40, and that's under the threshold for me to list on eBay for a type of item.
So they thought they were 90 because somebody listed
maybe
one
they're
for
40,
90.
50, 60, 70. And so unfortunately, I had a conversation with him where I wasn't going to be able to go down the eBay route because he has so many multiples. It would take me 3 years to sell 50% of the stock. And it takes up a 4 by 4 square foot space in my shop. There's just no way I could hold on to that. So right now, the current KBID auction, there's one of each one up, and we're going to see how that does and then make a plan for what the next step will be.
And this is like an awesome just segue, and I think, I don't know, we're probably getting close to the end here, but like one of the things I think we'll talk about more is like the ability to research. But this is a classic lesson that I've made, I'm sure other people have made, is what someone's asking for an item on eBay is drastically different, especially if there's only a few of them listed.
Right.
Classic example, the other day we just bought a Spectra 2017 Mahomes rookie auto to 10. There's only 3 of them listed. The cheapest listed is $20,000.
Right.
The highest sold is like $4,500.
Right.
So there's a massive, and this is common in stocks. You have the bid and the ask price.
Right.
The less of them that sell, the less volume, the bigger
the
gap. The more an item sells, the tighter the gap. And so if you're looking up an item and you're like, oh man, I got this really rare item and there's one on eBay and it's listed super high, don't think it's necessarily worth that.
Well, I'll give you something even further than that. So in these sports impressions, so I'd explained to them that they're really selling between 20 and 40 and shipped. And so I said, actually, the highest comp I got was a Gary Carter at $50. But then I had to explain to him that was an outlier.
Right.
The chances of me getting $50 for this one Gary Carter, much less 12 of them, is almost impossible.
And to tell him, like, it's not a liquid $50. Meaning that thing might have been listed for 2 years.
Because there were 3 others sold at 23, 27. I got to say, I said, like, you can't fixate on that 50 because it's unlikely that.
And that's the benefit right now to the volume of cards being sold. And I told you I subscribe to the Sports Card Investor tool, the Market Movers thing. One of the things you can do is search volume of cards sold and by player, and the more volume, more transaction volume around a specific card brings a more consistent market
Correct.
value, which brings
And that's
a greater
generally
liquidity.
true. The more volume,
and
the
so,
more accurate the
And so
pricing.
right now, that's the good thing, because oftentimes a super rare card, like you don't know the market, and that's where the benefit to, like, and to Jeremy's point about some of these collectors, they don't want to buy from an auction house. As a seller, I'll be honest, there's times where it's like, as much as I would like to sell to one of those guys in a relationship, I don't even know what the market should be.
And
so
really
that's
when
an
you start
auction
going
setting.
on an auction.
Yeah, that's where you send it to an auction and you go, like, it's not because I'm trying to maximize my value.
Correct.
I mean, I'm a business owner
But you may
that's
just not know what the value is.
well, one hasn't sold for 3 years. So the market's moved so much in the last 6 months on some cards that it's like, I don't know until it gets in, because there might be two people waiting for one to get listed, So, and it's always the painful thing where you list a card that's rare and it gets sold in 30 seconds and you realize, oops.
Although
Like
I
that-
used to be a real estate agent, and so that was a very common thing where you would list a house and then you would get a full price offer right away, and they'd always come back to you like, you priced my house wrong. And the counter to that is, no, I priced the house correctly.
Yeah. Now, if my example is,
Now, it could be both.
I sold at the time. I didn't even realize how much this is like the holy grail of inserts. But I sold a Crusade Red, Will Clark.
Oh wow!
And I, at the time, didn't do a diligent enough job looking back on sales from like four.
You didn't realize how popular
there hadn't been one sold for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So we got it back from PSA. It was like a 9. We listed it for like 1,400, which I thought was maybe a little high. Like, and it sold instantly.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, there must have been something with it. And I looked. I actually found a sale like 5 years earlier for like 2,500.
Right.
I was like, oh.
And well, the other thing too is the
You know.
knowledge that there are a lot of Will Clark collectors.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's
Or Hideo Nomo
Junior
or like
Ortiz,
yeah.
there's not a lot of Junior Ortiz collectors.
Or kind of like there was the super collectors of Omar Vizquel, who like all of a sudden
Omar,
you
the
got
big one that you wouldn't think.
You wouldn't think
unless
some of
you
these
knew.
guys actually sell.
Whereas like
yeah.
Roberto Alomar doesn't tend to have that many
Sure.
super collectors of them. So
Yeah.
but Roberto Alomar is in the Hall of Fame. Vizquel is not.
Yeah, there's
So do the math on that.
well, and like in an auction scenario, it only takes 2, right? And so
Right.
like all it takes is now it only takes 1 if you're doing a
buy
buy
now,
now.
yeah.
So
Well, I got a question for you. So I modified my eBay listing for the graded cards, and then I did this maybe 2 months prior. I changed the description in all my listings. So what I do is I just copy and paste my entire description, and then I just have one aspect that's different. So that way I just paste every time I do a listing. So I changed it where I actually describe how I ship cards, and I'm curious what your opinion is. So what I do is I say, I'm paraphrasing. You can go to one of my more recent listings. If you go back to one of my first listings, it's horrible.
we have a generic
Similar and so
listing,
what I
think,
just
as far
say
as
is
what we
all
described.
cards are shipped in a team bag, sandwiched in between cardboard and a poly bag, and then graded cards the same way, but they're also put into an 8x6x4 box with bubble. And I'm wondering what you think if there'll be a competitive edge by describing how I'm going to ship.
Yeah.
Will the customer feel safer that I'm describing exactly how I'm doing it versus other sellers? We've seen some
I've seen
some
crazy
photos of
stuff
some
shipped.
crazy.
I've had customers buy high-end cards that literally got shipped to them raw, like in a bubble mailer,
in
like
a cereal box.
Watch out for 23 feedback.
really. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That, I've seen one in a cereal box.
Yeah.
They shipped the
Jeez.
card in a cereal box.
Well, and part of it is for us. One of the best assets you have as an eBay seller is if you look at the feedback on ours. I think we don't have a lot compared to a lot of guys. I think we only have like 6,000 positive.
Oh, I'm beating it.
I think you're beating us.
Wow.
Yeah. But one of the most common responses shipped well, like
and shipped fast.
securely, shipped fast, and like I think that gains a competitive edge in the long term. I think one of the things though that a lot of people are concerned about now is like, are the pictures allowing me to see the condition of the card? Because so many people are buying raw cards on eBay. Because if you don't own a store, you don't set up at shows, or you don't have connections to collections, the way you're making money, your margin becomes buying raw cards on eBay,
You live in
grading
middle
them,
South Dakota.
grading them, and then making a profit on that. And so they're looking for now. The problem is if you sell, and I don't know how this is going to affect you because now you got graded cards back on eBay, which you only had raw. Is a lot of our guys. Honestly, I'll tell them sometimes like, if you're buying raw cards from a guy who's selling a bunch of graded
Yeah.
cards, like they may have passed. Now that's not always true for us. Like there's cards we'll sell.
Yeah,
and I'm
you
like,
just kinda
this
like,
could be gradable. But I'm like,
I'm not gonna wait 9 months.
or I
to get
don't
it back.
believe in this guy long term enough to
Yes.
like invest the time on a rookie that I'm like, let's just move it. Like
Yeah.
let's wash our hands and like
Well, like right now, I have, let's say, 100 graded cards, and I have 39,000 raw cards.
yeah.
I don't have 39,000 sixes, and then
No, right.
100 cards for all my 10s
Right.
and 9s. Yeah.
But if I have, let's say, 10 Tyler Heroes that
Yeah.
are raw, and I
That's
have 2 that
possible.
are graded. Now I could have acquired them at different
Sure.
times and decided not to grade them or whatever. I
Maybe
mean,
went down in
yeah.
value or whatever.
obviously look over pictures. Like the unfortunate part, and I want to say this as a caveat to anyone listening, I have a bunch of guys who I've had to have tough conversations with recently who have bought unauthenticated autos of big name players for a really cheap
Like on what?
price.
Like
So a guy,
8x10
recent one was an 8x10 of Kobe and Curry
Ooh.
without a COA, and he's like, well, it was $80 and there's a chance it's real. I'm like, no, there's no chance it's real.
No,
like,
not at $80.
Because no one in their right mind sells that off knowing it's authentic without getting it authentic and selling it for the
Right.
market price. It's a $1,500 picture. Like,
Right.
and so he's like, yeah, but there's like this gamble button where it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but there's one in, no, it's zero. The guy's writing them at home and it didn't pass. And I had a guy do it with a Jordan auto on card, bought a raw Jordan auto, didn't pass.
Because the theory is
like,
that person doesn't know that Michael Jordan's kind of a big deal.
Well, and they're like, yeah, but I'm paying so little for it. You're
We've
paying
paid little for a destroyed card.
and you're keeping these guys
And the card's
faking
defective
autos
now.
and selling them because they have gullible buyers like
Right,
you that'll
right.
pay them $100 for something that's worth nothing. And so, like, buy the authentication companies that are legitimate.
Well, let's
Don't
be clear. If there's a Michael Jordan fake auto on a $25 card, that card's worth $1.
I wouldn't even sell it, but
No.
Oh.
I mean, like, even as a card.
Oh.
So the card's worth $25.
yeah,
It
yeah, it's worth
destroys
less.
the whole
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, I don't know if you. I don't
I don't even know if you would collect. And a $25 card's a
Well,
decent card.
now I'll say this much: if somebody for some reason faked an autograph on like a high-end
Yeah,
insert,
I'm curious at what point it
have you
still
ever
has value.
experienced anything like that, like a Noise Boys or something? Like, what
Yeah,
do you do with that
there's a
card?
fake auto on it.
I guess I've never really dealt with it.
This is a parlor game we're dealing
I
with
also,
here.
I also just deal in cardboard. I don't do memorabilia at all.
yeah.
So.
All right. Let's
I'm
do it.
not the
Let's
guy.
do a parlor game. Kobe Bryant masterpiece, fake auto on it.
I mean, I'd just be mad.
Is there?
What's the value? What would you pay for it? I mean, you're gonna pay more than $1 for that, even with fake auto. I
Pay
would.
for it? I mean, I guess I'd pay what's in my pocket for sure.
So what you're arguing is there comes a point where the value is so high, it doesn't matter if somebody scribbled on
I
it.
mean, at that point, yeah, you're talking about a card that what I'll take a PSA MK.
Yeah.
Right, it got marked. Yeah.
And the question is, and I don't know, and you probably talked with PSA recently because they've actually changed, I think, their stance. They've taken a harder stance on like cleaning a card versus like wiping a card as far as what's allowed chemically.
Right,
Like, because I know there's companies who, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I've heard of a company that can get tape off of a card. Like if you had tape, like let's say you had a 52 mantle and it was taped to the wall.
Oh, taped to the wall.
Where they can
scrapbook.
get it off without causing. I mean, it costs a lot of money, so it has to be a valuable card to invest.
Got to
where
be a
they
chemical process.
where there's a chemical process that will still allow it to be graded authentic. Probably, maybe it's not given a number grade, but at least it doesn't have the tape for the eye appeal. So
Yeah.
like to increase the value. What's
Yeah, I mean, so that would that's altering as far as PSA is concerned.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, there's companies that can fix pinholes. Apparently, I mean, it's basically paper restoration companies, right? That are taking care of stuff like that. But yeah, that's considered altering the card at that point. And what's their stance on like cleaning the cards now for newer cards and stuff like that? If it's not just wiping the card with a microfiber cloth and water or something like that, at that point, it is considered altering in PSA's eyes based on what I've been told.
How much water are you putting on a card?
Well, it's just you're getting it moist, so maybe you can get that piece of dirt off or something like that got stuck on it because you were, eating lunch and you got a little bit of Army sauce on your card.
Or famously, the back of Fleer stickers for basketball have wax on,
Right.
and using a little bit of either heat or actually
And
like
that's where-
saliva
that's where
or
you're
water.
You're breathing on your cards.
I breathe on them, so like chrome, I'm breathing on them to get moisture,
little
just like
bit
you
of
would when you
moisture.
clean your glasses, and so like the idea is to like allow me. I'm not gonna just scrub it dry. You know what I mean? I don't want to scratch it. Obviously, I'm using a microfiber.
So
but
are you huffing and puffing on those cards, or are you adding a little bit of moist?
So
Something.
one, I don't do a lot of brand new cards,
Mm-hmm.
so
Oh,
so I don't deal with it a lot. But you need just, I mean, if you've got a 1990s,
You're talking like maybe a paper towel that's just like maybe not paper towel,
a
but
microfiber with
yeah,
just a tad,
just a little bit of water.
and
Okay.
it's starting to dry off already, and you're just
Okay.
using that because it's just giving you something to make it the microfiber slide across and
Okay.
just remove that piece of.
Yeah.
That's good info.
Lowering the
whatever.
friction so you're not actually causing damage.
Yeah, I was
while
I said
being able
paper
to
towel.
like.
No, don't do it. Don't use the paper towel.
Don't use a
please.
paper towel. I mean, there's also. Here's a question for you. I had somebody ask me this the other day. Have you ever found a method to remove cards that have been bricked up? Where like in the 90s they
I
stuck
heard the
together.
freezer.
Well, so I've heard the microwave, I've heard the freezer.
Microwave?
Oh yeah, same thing. So I mean, here's the reality to it. Once a brick of cards has gotten moist, right, steamed, whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it, and then it hardens, they're attached. The only way to unattach them, and just like anything else, is you got to re-moisten that product, right, to be able for it to release again. So you're going to have to bring steam back to that product, and then you're going to have to make it so it comes apart, whether it's freezing it or putting it in the microwave to get that.
Well, the
releasing agent.
freezing would remove. The concept of freezing was to remove all the moisture.
Well, true, but
In
the
a
reason they're
sense.
still stuck together is because they're no longer moist, right? So you need to bring that moisture back into it. Either way, you're
Here's the
screwed. Let's be honest.
Have you
it's
ever
done.
had
Yeah,
success
you're
on it?
screwed.
Or?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're losing. paper
Oh
guaranteed.
no.
I actually think I sold you in that Tim Duncan deal a members only stadium club set that was a brick, and the Jordans got just absolutely
Yeah.
destroyed. Like literally every card was.
It had little specks of the.
I mean,
other
you
card on
when
it.
you were breaking the brick apart, you were hoping you were breaking it at the card that wasn't important to try to
Yeah,
Right.
I'm going to let a lot of people know. So a lot of people think that's because it was in moist or humid temperatures. In reality, I don't think that's it at all. Well, I shouldn't say that. You know how finest cards and Topps Chrome cards start to yellow over time
Yeah.
or green or whatever you want to call it?
Yep.
I don't think that's moisture. I think that's pure heat.
Yep.
I don't think that's light exposure. I think that's just from heat.
Heat.
So
Yep.
you keep
But
your,
they're in the garage.
well, they're in the garage or they're in that closet that in
Next
your
to,
back bedroom closet that gets zero air movement inside it, and it
Interesting.
just gets hot as a,
Yeah.
But let's be
Yeah.
clear. I don't think anybody knows.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody's doing tests in different areas.
We
to
should
see
start
what
a
they-
test.
Well, and you know what else I think it was is John. They produced a foil that was unique because
Yeah.
paper cards. The foil was new to cards in like what
Right.
93 SP or whatever year.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you had a foil that like we don't know how this is going to hold up in 10 years with a little bit like. The other thing I see
Well,
is
even that just the glass. So we're talking like Pacific.
well, but let's say you had a 5-row box and you packed them in there
Yeah.
tight. Now you have pressure too.
Oh,
And you have pressure,
fair
like
enough.
foil against foil, and then you add the heat to it. Now I think you start fusing. They're
And
like
then
getting
I
welded
would
together.
Still
you know?
argue that there's got to be humidity
Yeah.
as
I
an
think
aspect.
I think it depends on the type of card we're talking
Yeah.
about too.
Yeah. Is it Pacific or is it SP or is it finest? Those are three different
Now
technologies.
finest is going to come apart better because that chrome doesn't tend to.
Right.
Like you can peel those apart, whereas
Well, it's
you're not
better
losing the
constructed.
foil. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a they spent more money. It's a higher quality
It's
card.
not
Yeah.
paper.
Yep.
I mean, it is, but it's not.
Yeah, and that's why obviously you see prices on like the SP Jeter where you have like 22 tens
Right.
out of whatever 20,000 graded,
Yeah.
bring $100,000, and everyone's like, oh my god! And it's like, good luck. Like I mean, you look at the foil and
Well,
it
that and
falls
just
off.
all
yeah.
that foil.
And then I'm worried about like unopened boxes. The question is,
Yes.
if I find an unopened box of 93, can I actually open it without, or are they fastened?
So
Yeah.
realistically, the base part of the set, yeah, it's going to be fastened. But the foils, they don't stick. So the foils aren't sticking to the rest of the cards. So when you do actually open the packs, and I've got a partial box if anybody wants to screw around with it, let's do it. Quarter. That I mean the rest of the cards in the pack are pretty much bricked. I mean you can pull them apart. Sometimes some packs come better than others, but the foils just slide right off.
They do. Okay, so
Interesting.
you could actually realistically open a box and get a high grade Jeter. You
Jeter,
think?
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Okay.
but not the other base cards
Now,
on the
the
set.
rest of the base cards, it's over.
And is
That
over.
license is done.
and is the foil the foil like the last card of the pack or where
No,
are
they're in
they?
the middle.
They're in the middle. Okay, so everything else doesn't stick to that
Will
front or
the
back.
What about the
So
back?
it's a
Interesting.
So it's a different type of process that's on that card, and it's
So even on the back is not sticking to.
That's
the card
good news for
behind it.
someone who wants to like invest in a box and actually want to open it. Because if everyone
There you go.
knows they're fast and you buy a box and keep it unopened, it's like
now there's no big cards in them, but early Pacific are guaranteed bricks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the silver. You're talking about the
Like 93 Pacific football, yeah.
So the complete silver hollow foil packs.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got some boxes of that. I don't know. We should try.
Good
it.
luck.
That's
You know, if you have
Yes.
some boxes of it,
Yeah.
maybe we take 3. We do one where we bring it into a sauna. The other one we stick
This
it in
is
the
a great
freezer.
case study, man.
And
I
the
love
third
it.
one, I don't know.
For all those,
Microwave, a freezer, and a sauna.
I don't want to microwave
for all
any
the guys listening in the mid 30s to early 40s that want to rip their nostalgic boxes, like this is a real thing, right?
No,
I mean,
it
if
is a
you're
real
going to
thing.
invest money on a box, like, can I actually open it and have it not all?
The reason why I know Pacific is I went down nostalgia lane and I found one for like $8. I was like, cool, maybe I'll get a gold prism. And it's just like I'm getting packed and they're crackling. You can just hear them ripping.
I got a
start
box of the
snapping.
97 with the Vinny Testaverde rookie in it that I've been thinking about ripping, but maybe.
Here's what I learned though: the prisms, maybe a third of them were unscathed.
Yeah.
They kind of like with the SP Yeater, it was a different process. So, they're made with a different process on top, and some of them were damaged, and then some were, you could pop out.
This is awesome, man.
All right, this is a
Jeremy,
great podcast.
thank you for joining us. We will link his group. We'll get his contact info if you're
Absolutely.
listening. You want cards graded, even if you don't live in the Twin Cities, contact Jeremy. He does a great job. Yeah.
Well,
There
I had
it
fun,
is.
Clint.
Episode number 5. There it goes.
Number 5,
Till next
sports car
time.
culture. Check us out next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.